On today's episode of America Unfiltered with James Pascalides, we'll talk about topics like Zelensky, Trump, and JD Vance all sitting down for a crazy meeting in the Oval Office. We'll talk about Elon Musk and his remarks on Social Security during his interview with the Joe Rogan podcast. We'll talk about Honda's new decision to manufacture their cars in the United States, declining confidence in President Zelensky, and the release of the Epstein files by the White House. All that and much more coming up on today's episode of America Unfiltered with James Pascalides, starting now.
The moment is here. This is our moment.
America, we are back, baby. Welcome to another episode of America Unfiltered with James Pascalides. This is episode 29. We took last week off. I was a little sick, and I'm just getting back into things today. But I want to dive right into things. A lot went on last week, so I want to talk, most importantly, about what everyone's talking about, the Zelensky-Trump JD Vance meeting that happened in the Oval Office. I want to show you guys some of the highlights and clips and some of the tenser moments from it as well, and talk about my disappointment in Zelensky and why I love how Trump, basically, he didn't fold at all. Trump stood there. He stood his ground to Zelensky, who is continuously pushing to keep the war going, keep the just gravy train rolling, keep the U.S. funneling money into Ukraine, into Zelensky's pockets, into the bureaucrats and warmongers' pockets. But Trump said no. He said, we're not going to do that. Trump said that he wants the war to end, that Ukraine has no chance of fighting this war without the help of the U.S. So for him to come into the Oval Office dressed in a long-sleeve t-shirt and pants and just disrespect the office, disrespect the president, and disrespect the American taxpayer demanding funds live on air, it just did not go over well. I want to play a very crucial clip for you guys that happened during the meeting, where it shows Zelensky going at JD Vance for a second, and then JD Vance going right back at him, the way we love him for. And then you'll see Donald Trump standing right at JD Vance's side, and them going right at Zelensky and saying, no, we're not going to tolerate this, and saying that we're not going to allow him to threaten us. It's a pretty crazy clip. It's a long one, so I'm going to pop that up for you guys, and then we'll talk about it right after.
The United States of America, and for the good of the world. I'm aligned with the world, and I want to get this thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous hatred, and I understand that, but I can tell you the other side isn't exactly in love with, him either. So it's not a question of alignment. I'm aligned with the world. I want to get the thing set. I'm aligned with Europe. I want to see if we can get this thing done. You want me to be tough? I could be tougher than any human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough. But you're never going to get a deal that way, so that's the way it goes. All right, one more question.
Hey, I will respond to this. So look, for 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden of thumping our chest and pretending that the President of the United States' words mattered more than the President of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So he occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact line?
2015.
2014.
2014 and 2015.
2014.
Yeah. So
I was not here.
Yeah, but
That's exactly right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, the situation the same. The people have been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him, me, like a new president, In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. Ceasefire. All of them told me that he will never go. We signed with him with gas contract. Gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the President for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Count once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military?
We have problems.
And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know
bless.
that.
You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering on this
position to
question.
dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly what
this.
you're doing.
I'm not
You're in
dictating.
no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
You
We're
will-
going to feel very
you will
good.
feel influence.
We're going to feel
I'm-
very
I'm
good and
telling
very
you,
strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed
From the
yourself
very-
to be in a
from
very
the very
bad position,
beginning
and
of
he
the
happens
war.
to be right about
From the
it.
very beginning of the war.
You're not
Mr.
in a good
Brown,
position.
I
You
was
don't have the
saying-
cards right now. With us, you start having
not playing
cards.
cards.
Right now, you
I'm
don't.
very
You're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're
I'm
gambling
the
with the
president
lives
in
of
war.
millions of people.
You think-
You're gambling with World War
What you're-
III.
what you're
You're
speaking about.
gambling with
What you're
World
speaking
War
about.
III. And
You-
what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country.
I'm
That's
with
back
all
to you.
respect to your
Far
country.
more than a lot of people said
very
they
respect.
should have.
Have you said thank you once? This
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting, have
today.
you said thank
Even
you?
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the
What-
United
what
States
you're
of
speaking
America
about.
and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you
He's
can...
not speaking loudly. He's not
Yeah.
speaking loudly. Your country is
Can I-
in big
can I-
trouble.
can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No,
Can
you've
I
done a lot of
answer?
talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not
I
winning.
know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of
we are
coming out
staying,
okay because of
Mr.
us.
President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
You haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this
We
cabinet.
gave you, through
I
this
said thank
stupid
you.
president, $350 billion.
You
we
voted
gave
for
you
your
military
president.
equipment,
You
and you
voted
men
for your
are brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about we are
If
speaking?
you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me-
equipment,
you invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3
okay?
days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. I tell you.
Just say thank you.
I said a lot of
except
times
that
thank
there,
you
except
to
that,
American people.
Except that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's
I
very
understand.
important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You
I'm-
don't have the
I'm
cards.
thankful.
You're buried there. Your people are dying.
tell you
You're
again,
running
I
low
know.
on soldiers.
Don't-
Listen,
don't please,
you're running
Mr.
low on
President.
soldiers. It would be a damn good thing.
Mr.
And then
President.
then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I wanted this. Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're
I
saying
said-
you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
with guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't
it doesn't
with
matter
me.
for you what
That
what
wasn't
this
with me.
means.
That was with a guy named Biden, who was not a smart person. That was with Obama.
It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
One more question to Mr. Vice President. I'm sorry.
It's going to be a tough deal to make, because the attitudes have to change.
What if Russia breaks ceasefire? What if Russia breaks peace talks? What do you do then? I understand that it's a heated conversation right now.
What are you saying?
She's asking, what if Russia breaks the ceasefire?
What if anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now? Okay? What if they broke it? I don't know. They broke it with Biden, because Biden, they didn't respect him. They didn't respect Obama. They respect me. Let me tell you, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me. He went through a phony witch hunt where they used him and Russia. Russia. You ever hear of that deal? That was a phony Hunter Biden, Joe Biden scam. Hillary Clinton, Shifty Adam Schiff. It was a Democrat scam. And he had to go through that. And he did go through it. We didn't end up in a war. And he went through it. He was accused of all that stuff. He had nothing to do with it. It came out of Hunter Biden's bathroom. It came out of Hunter Biden's bedroom. It was disgusting. And then they said, oh, the laptop from hell was made by Russia. The 51 agents. The whole thing was a scam. And he had to put up with that. He was being accused of all that stuff. All I can say is this. He might have broken deals with Obama and Bush, and he might have broken them with Biden. He did, maybe. Maybe he didn't. I don't know what happened. But he didn't break them with me. He wants to make a deal. I don't know if you can make a deal. The problem is, I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. All right, I think we've seen enough. What do you think? Huh? This is going to be great television, I will say that. All right. We'll see what we can do about putting it together. Thanks, sir.
And I need the back of the
We'll see, Adam.
All right, guys, come on. Wait, hey, guys, come on, let's move, please.
This meeting made me really not like Zelensky a lot more than I already didn't like Zelensky. Zelensky has continuously ripped off the American taxpayer and the American people. And I hate how he sat there in the Oval Office. I hate how he dressed. Donald Trump, in a joke, said he actually liked how he dressed, didn't mind it. But I find it disrespectful to go to the Oval Office asking the American taxpayers and the American president for money, for troops, for whatever he's asking for, and to do it in a long-sleeve shirt. I find that to be incredibly disrespectful. But to move beyond that to the real stuff that he did was disrespectful. One, I don't speak Ukrainian, but using translators, I'm able to notice that he called JD Vance a bitch in Ukrainian. I find that incredibly disrespectful for him to say that about the Vice President of the United States of America. So given that, I think he is a terrible person. I don't think we should be doing any business with him or Ukraine. I personally think that Zelensky signed his own death note doing that. I don't think it was the right move to do. And beyond that, he is sitting there with he has nothing, no legs to stand on, and he is continuously trying to pry for more money, saying that we need the war to continue, But why? Why not sign a peace agreement and get the war over with? The majority of Ukrainians and Russians want the war over with Ukrainians are so bad for soldiers right now that they are literally taking young men off the street who don't want to fight this war and dragging them into battle. They are taking mentally handicapped people and dragging them into battle. So people with mental disabilities, Down syndrome and things like this, they are dragging these young men to the front lines. That is despicable. That should be punishable. It is terrible what Zelensky is doing. I don't agree with Zelensky. I think that Zelensky has gone way overboard, and the American people and the people in Ukraine and Russia are agreeing as well. I want to play this clip here from CNN where it really just shows the approval of Zelensky of the things he's doing shoot down and down over time. I'm going to pop that video up for you guys right here, and then we'll pick it apart right after.
Holy Toledo, look at this trend line here. U.S. support for Ukraine is too much. Back when the war began, back in February of 2022, it was just 7%. Up like a rocket ship. My goodness. Up now in February of 2025 to 41%. And the clear majority of Republicans, and of course Republicans are in charge of the U.S. government now, 62% of Republicans say that the U.S. support for Ukraine is too much. What a difference from just 3 years ago. I can remember, John, all those backyards in the United States with those Ukrainian flags. Far fewer of them today, as Americans' opinions on Ukraine have changed dramatically.
What about opinions of the Ukrainian president?
Right. You know, obviously, if you would expect changes amongst the public on feelings towards Ukraine, feelings towards Zelensky have changed also dramatically. Look at this. Confident Zelensky will do the right thing when it comes to world affairs. Back in 2022, it was the clear majority, 72% through the floor. Through the floor by 2024, just 48% of Americans say that they're confident that Zelensky will do the right thing when it comes to world affairs. And GOP confidence has also plummeted dramatically. Now the clear majority of Republicans are not confident that Zelensky will do the right thing when it comes to world affairs. Really a real trend line, ones you rarely see in the American public when it comes to Ukraine and Zelensky. Confidence in both going down through the ground.
Look, some allies of President Trump have targeted Zelensky with harsh criticism over the last few years, and it could be that that's having some impact here.
Absolutely. The Republican establishment, the Republican electorate has moved as the Republican establishment and Republican leaders have moved on.
All right, let's talk about the idea of a peace deal. And again, the way you ask this matters, but go ahead.
The way you ask it is important, so we can talk about this a little bit. So the poll question essentially is, do you support a Russia-Ukraine negotiated peace deal? The vast majority of Americans, this is what they want. 78% say that they support this idea versus just 16% oppose. Of course, as we were talking about, does this question actually get at what's going on right now? I think you would say that it probably does not necessarily get what's going on right now.
No, the question asked, do you support a Russia-Ukraine negotiated peace deal? Ukraine's not there at the negotiations in Saudi Arabia this week, so the people were not asked this. And I do think, in general, if you ask anyone in any poll, do you support peace, peace tends to rate pretty highly.
Peace tends to win. You rarely get 78% of the country agreeing on anything. They do agree on the idea of a negotiated peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. Whether the majority would agree on a Russia peace deal with Ukraine where Ukraine has nothing to do with it, that might be a different question.
Hard to know. Harriet, thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
As you guys can see, even the liberal media with CNN is ripping Zelensky apart at this point. They know Zelensky's a lost cause, that he wants the war to keep on going. He doesn't want the war to end. He doesn't want to save his people. All he wants is to keep lining the pockets of bureaucrats and keep lining his own pockets as well. He doesn't care how many of the young men in his country die. He doesn't care if he's going down with the ship. Zelensky is ruining Ukraine for the Ukrainians currently. He is not allowing this war to end when Russia's been trying to bring peace to this war for a long time. Russia has continuously said, if we put it in writing that Ukraine does not join NATO, then they will not invade Ukraine. The U.S. refused to put that in writing under Biden. They invaded Ukraine, and then right after, and that whole thing was stupid because that, we were never going to let Ukraine in NATO to begin with, so that was just kind of like, oh, we're not going to bow down to Russia. They want us to put it in writing. Why not put it in writing? They don't want, NATO is their enemy, technically. They don't want their enemy on their border the same way we wouldn't allow China to buy a massive piece of land right on the Mexico-U.S. border or Canada-U.S. border. It does not make sense. So I completely understand it, but Zelensky it's time for him to go, and people are starting to realize that. Zelensky is just continuously stealing from the American taxpayer, and the American taxpayer and Donald Trump is done allowing that to happen. I want to go on to our next topic. I want to talk about Elon Musk going on the Joe Rogan Experience. So Elon Musk went on the Joe Rogan Experience. I think it's his fifth time on there. It's always very entertaining when he is on there, but this time there's been some controversy surrounding some of the statements he said. A lot of politicians, specifically on the Democratic side, are spreading misinformation around. This is nothing new. They've been doing this for years and years. But I want to show this specific clip that they're spreading around. And when they're spreading it, they're cutting it up to make it sound like Elon Musk wants to get rid of Social Security as a whole. When in reality, what Elon Musk is talking about is the waste, fraud, and abuse happening within Social Security, when there's millions of people over the age of, 150 who are still marked as alive, over the age of 200 and 300 even, who are still marked as alive receiving money. That's waste, fraud, and abuse. So I'm going to pop this clip up for you guys, and then we'll pick apart a little bit after.
The government's one big pyramid scheme, if you ask me.
Yeah, well, you can tell me better than anybody.
Social Security is the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time.
Right, explain that.
Oh, so... well, people pay into Social Security, and the money goes out of Social Security immediately. But the obligation for Social Security is your entire retirement career. So you're paying with you're paying like if you look at the future obligations of Social Security, it far exceeds the tax revenue. Far. Have you ever looked at the debt clock?
Yes.
Okay. There's our present day debt, but then there's our future obligations. So when you look at the future obligations of Social Security, the actual national debt is like double what people think it is because of the future obligations. So basically people are living way longer than expected.
So what the liberal media has been doing is they're taking the first part of that clip where he says it's a Ponzi scheme and just ending it right there. They're pretty much saying Elon Musk is a dictator, an unelected bureaucrat who's trying to get rid of Social Security for the American people, but in reality what he's trying to do is make it not a scam. He doesn't want people who are dead receiving checks, and also, at the same time, he wants people who are paying in for Social Security now for when they retire to be able to receive it. Social Security is going to run out of money because how poorly our government handles our finances. And if Elon Musk doesn't do something to fix this, there's no one in our government who has been trying to. So I'm very glad we have Elon Musk there to fix this. I hate that the liberal media is trying to tear him down when he's trying to do positive things for the country and for America, for American taxpayers. But that's what the liberal media has done time and time again, so it's really not much of a surprise that they are doing that. I do want to go on to our next topic. I want to talk about something that's really amazing. It's following Trump's announcement of putting tariffs on different countries for imports and exports, different things like that. But Trump announced that Mexico will have tariffs on automobile imports into the United States to make trade agreements more fair, so the U.S. isn't continuously getting screwed on trade like we have been previously. And after this announcement, Honda has now announced that they will be manufacturing their new hybrid cars in the United States instead of Mexico. So people, specifically liberals and Democrats around the country, have been saying, oh, all Trump's tariffs are going to do is hurt the end consumer, hurt the American taxpayer. But no, in reality, what it's doing is creating more American jobs, and it's going to make things cheaper for the American people by things being manufactured in our homeland right here instead of in other countries using slave labor. Companies like Nike and all these just bigger companies who manufacture things in other countries, they use slave labor, and we're supporting that when we buy from those companies who are manufacturing in other countries. So when you're buying from companies manufacturing in the United States, you're not only supporting American taxpayers, American jobs, and American growth, but you're not supporting slave labor, which I feel like should just be a given for all of us in America, but somehow we lost that along the way when it came to mass producing products. Apple, Nike are some of the bigger ones who are extremely guilty of this, and this is something that I believe should be changed. But I'm going to pop this video up for you guys of Honda talking about how they're going to be manufacturing their cars in the United States now.
Sources say Honda has decided to produce its next-generation Civic Hybrid in the U.S. state of Indiana. The switch from Mexico is to avoid potential tariffs on one of its top-selling car models, the people familiar with the matter have said. The change underscores how manufacturers are scrambling to adapt to U.S. President Donald Trump's proposed 25% tariffs on goods from Mexico and Canada. Several automakers have expressed concerns about the levies, but Honda's reported move would be the first concrete measure by a major Japanese car company. The sources said Honda now plans to build its new Civic model in Indiana from May 2028, with an expected annual production of around 210,000 vehicles.
I really love that Honda's doing the right thing. They're going to start manufacturing again in the United States. It will avoid tariffs for them, it will create American jobs, and it's very beneficial for America that this happens. I want to move on to our last topic today. It was something I was very excited for last week that now it's starting to question a little in my mind what's going on, but we were told we were going to get the Epstein files last week, and we did get what they called phase 1 of the Epstein files, but it wasn't anything we really didn't already know, stuff that wasn't already released in the court cases for Ghislaine Maxwell or Epstein or whatever court case you look back on, but it looks like we didn't get much new information. They are saying that there will be more information released in phases, but I'm curious why they didn't release it just all at once. Pam Bondi has been continuously saying that she thinks there are people at the FBI withholding thousands of documents from her and possibly destroying these documents as well. I really hope this is not true, and I hope Pam Bondi is able to get to the bottom of this and get this information released as soon as possible to the American people. I know transparency is extremely important to me and the American people as well. So with that, I'm going to sign off today. I'm James Pascalides. This has been episode 29 of America Unfiltered. I hope you all have a blessed day. Thank you.